This is devlog number 2. Today we're gonna talk about mechanics and dice manipulation and stuff like that. And the game is live right now, so you can actually support Fluff and Fury. It is on Kickstarter. There will be a link down here and you can go there. But today we're gonna talk about dice manipulation and how the game makes each weapon feel different. So let's talk about that. There was one thing that was really important for me in the game, was to introduce the game to new players. That was something that I really wanted to emphasize and be something important to be easy to pick it up and be a one shot. But I feel that a lot of the one page, one shots, a lot of stuff makes the game easy to understand. How can I explain that? Make the game easy to understand but not easy on the players. For instance, it requires a lot of the players to play. Just because it's rules light, it doesn't mean that it's easy for players to pick up, right? Because you have less rules, but then you rely a lot of people improvisational skills or acting or doing this stuff, because that's what happens sometimes. I don't know, there's a game that I think is really good, Honey Heist. It's really fun, very rules light. There is only one row, right? You roll for bear or you roll for crime, and that's kind of how you play. But this game works really well with a group of players that have played role-playing games, I think. That's my opinion. Because it's really hard for people to oh, you are a bear now and you need to do bear things or do crime, and if you present to a new player, they might be like, wait, what? I have a friend who was their first time that I play test, and I was doing wacky voices of one of the villains. I was like, oh, why are you doing at my club? And he was looking at me what do you want me to do, you know? And I was like, oh damn, I cannot do just act like I usually DM, because this person is just looking at me damn, I don't know what to do, you know? I don't know how to act or what to say. Should I act? You know, they were very self-conscious. And I was like, oh damn, I should just change to describing what's happening. So this guy comes to you and he's being very weird and he's asking, what are you doing in the club? And then my friend was it was much easier for him to be oh, okay. Oh, then I'll say that to him and I'll do that and I'll go there. So describing will be much easier, because when I was just saying words to his face as this weird character who was, I don't even remember what, it was some weird animal, teddy bear. And he was I don't know what to do exactly, you know? And I was oh damn, there is a step back that you need to take and make it more easy for people to play. And that's kind of how I got to dice manipulation, because it's something to fiddle with. Also, before I say that, it's another thing that was important. One second. Let me fix this drawer. Okay, keeps opening and hitting here, and it's really annoying. But okay, it's fixed now. I really wanted people to have something to do as they're playing. If you are really rules light and you just roll a dice and you need to act all the time, I feel they can get kind of tough for people to just be on the moment all the time. So I think action is good for that, because it's just it's a crazy moment, you know, and you're describing this crazy scene that there is a helicopter pass and you have a bazooka and the helicopter is coming close, and what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And then you roll dice, you know, and then you roll your dice and you're oh my God, I did this amazing thing, you know? I didn't want, because I wanted to be simple, so I did a very simple dice pool system for resolving conflict. Is a very yes or no, you did or you didn't do. Because also that's another problem to me. I love Powered by the Apocalypse, but sometimes for new players, when you show Powered by the Apocalypse, you're okay, so this is a success, but with consequences. And then you have the GM trying to come up with a consequence, and you have the player sometimes trying to suggest a consequence, and sometimes it works great with the right group, but sometimes it can bog play a lot. It's so what is exactly the consequence? Oh, maybe you lost your wallet. No, because I was there, I didn't bring my wallet. But well, maybe then you, and it's we've been 5 minutes discussing what is the consequence to your success, you know? There is GMs who are amazing and they would be oh, this is the consequence. But I wanted Fluff and Fury to be a game that pretty much anybody can GM. So I didn't want it to have those consequences in Like I do have like a module for the game that adds this idea of consequences because I think it's fun and I love to play. I love Blades in the Dark. It's one of my favorite games. So I love the idea of having like levels of success, but I didn't want it to have it on the core rules because I knew it was gonna like make people overthink things. I'm an overthinker, so I know like I'm like, what's the most funny consequence that could happen right now? And it's like players, like I like if players suggest, it's always fun. So you're like, oh, well, what do you think? And now we are having this meta discussion of what the consequence should be when actually I just want a fast game, right? So that's why 6 is a success. If you see a 6, you're happy. That's simple. And then we got to weapons, and like I was like, okay, let's do weapons, but I didn't want to do weapons to be just like a die. You're like, oh, is a bazooka, roll a d20. Is a shotgun, roll a d8, roll a d6. I didn't want it to be just a dice roll. Like it doesn't feel like what you're doing, right? Like you're like, oh, I have a bazooka. Okay, just roll a big die, or roll like more dice. You know, like it's like that's fun. Like the bazooka, it makes sense to roll a lot of dice. But like, oh, what is the difference between a pistol and a shotgun? It's like, well, one does more damage. And it's like, oh, okay. What is the difference between a machine gun and a shotgun? Well, one does kind of like a little bit more damage, but not that much, but you gotta be close to do more damage. Like, that's it. It's just like a numerical thing, right? But the idea of dice manipulation brings this much closer to what is actually happening in the world. So let's go through them. First, the bazooka. The bazooka is how it is. You just roll 10d6, and that's how much. If you have a 6, that's a damage, and you do a bunch of damage. But the only difference is if you're an expert on bazookas, you can manipulate dice. That's how it comes. Like you can make dices become 6s. So because a bazooka is a big thing, is a big blast, pretty much you can transform 4 5s to 6s. So basically you blast everything. You have a lot of dice because a big blast, and you have like 50% of hitting everything. And then we have the machine gun. The machine gun, the idea is you keep shooting. You roll 8d6s and you have 6 free rerolls. But you cannot reroll 1s and 6s, those get locked. So basically you roll your dice. If you have a 6 and a 1, you put them aside, and then you can reroll 6 times your other dice. This idea of just shooting your machine gun non-stop and just feeling the recoil, that's the person on the table rolling their dice, you know? And the bazooka is the same feeling. You fill your hand with dice, right? And you just roll on the table, and it's like, it just feels the spread of the explosion, right? So everything kind of tries to emulate, because that's the idea, right? You're describing something, and the other person on the other side is like, wow, explode everything. And like the machine gun guy is just rolling, and like, also that's another important thing to me is like, players go first, then the enemies go, because I want that. I want everybody to roll their dice pretty much at the same time, you know? It's like, let's do it. What are you guys gonna do? It's like, oh, I'm gonna roll my bazooka. I'm gonna roll my machine gun. So it's like everybody, it really feels this epic moment that everybody's going at this boss and just shooting everything they got. It's like, who cares, you know? You shoot your bazooka, what are you guys all doing, you know? And I think that's fun. So the machine gun, you have 6 free rerolls. You cannot reroll 1s and 6s, those got locked. So you miss on 1 and you hit on 6, so you keep rolling then. We tried before with just having rerolls until you hit 6 and 1s, and like they are locked, but you have like infinite rerolls. It doesn't work. Like sometimes we play test and sometimes you just get like stuck and you just have 1 die and it will not roll a 6 or a 1, and it's terrible. So 6 free rerolls is a great number. It's 6, all the game is 6, and it works perfectly. So another one is pistols, dual pistols. You have 2 pistols. Basically with that one, you will roll 2 separate side of dice representing each pistol. So you roll 4d6 and 4d6, and whatever you match numbers on those 2 dice, they become 6s, right? So if you roll a 6, that's amazing, it's already you hit. But if you roll a 4 on this side and a 4 on this side, then those 2 become 6s. So you do 2 extra damage, right? So you always need to like coordinate kind of your shooting so they kind of match, and it feels like you're shooting in your two guns kind of like in kind of almost unison, trying to get this rhythm. So that's why you have two separate dice pools pretty much, and they can be different colors, and you always know if you match, you do a hit. Then you have shotgun. A shotgun is pretty much like much simpler than the other ones. The shotgun is close range, and when you shoot your shotgun, you roll 6d6 and 2, 3s, 4, and 5. You only miss on one on a shotgun, so pretty much you will hit. So you transform everything to 6s except 1s. So you always pretty much hit with your shotgun, but you need to be close range, right? So the shotgun is a very like fun, is mostly like if you get a 1, you're like, God damn it, really? When you get like 2 1s on a shotgun, you're like, man, I could have done so much more damage. And like, what are the odds? So like the shotgun is always annoying, but like, what else can you do with a shotgun, right? You just close to the person and you blast it. So the bazooka and the shotguns have some similarities, but the shotgun, like, because you need to be closer, you just do this blast damage, and you just shoot one person with the shotgun. With the bazooka is a range, so you hit everything, right? So there's different strategies for each. And then we have the flamethrower. I really like the flamethrower. It's the hardest one to explain to people. Pretty much the flamethrower, my idea was to keep the flame alive, right? You just like, you just keep burning whatever you're burning. So the idea is you need to make sequences. So it's kind of this idea of a continuous thing that you need to be doing. So you're always trying to like get this dice to make sequences, right? So you roll your dice 8d6s too, and then any like sequence you make of at least 2 numbers, they become 6s, right? So if you have on your dice roll 1, 2, 3, there's a sequence, they all become 6s, so you have 3 extra hits whenever you can make sequences, right? Or for instance, if you roll like a 3 and a 4 and that's the only sequence you can make, that they become 6s too. Or even a 5 and a 6, if you have, you can transform the 5 and a 6, and you can make all the sequences. Who is this idea of keep burning, keep pressing the button, you know, keep making the sequence, you know? And a sequence kind of looks like the flame of a flamethrower. Maybe I'm overthinking, but I see it. And then we have the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle is precision, is all about precision, so you can manipulate dice up and down. So it's kind of you kind of like fine-tuning your aim, right? So you roll your 86s, and then is about, so if you roll a 2 and a 5, you can bring that 2 to 1, and you can bring that 5 to 6, and you have a hit, right? So you can manipulate dice this way. You can bring a 3 to 2, and then bring a 4 to 5, and then bring that 2 to 1, and bring that 5 to 6s. So you can move them down. You cannot go below 1 or over 6. They don't wrap around, but you can move them. And I think it's funny because when we are in the table and we are playing, when I'm trying with like playtesters, it's like you can see how asymmetric everything is. Like you see this guy with his bazooka just being like ha ha ha, you know, and you see this guy with like this sniper rifle, and they're like, okay, so I bring this one down and this one forward. Wait, can I do it? Yeah, that works, you know? And like, it really feels like it's a guy with a sniper rifle trying to figure out the best way of getting a shot. And you see the flamethrower guy, he's trying to make like, putting all these dice in a line, you know? And like, you see the machine gun just re-rolling. So what people are doing in the table are very analog to what's happening in the world. And that's kind of like the point that I'm trying to get, that this helps people who are like playing for the first time, because they see like the world that they are in, like make pretend that they are in, to be like a real thing that is kind of happening and they are doing it. So I think that analog brings them close to what's happening in our shared collective conscious, no, in our minds. And I think that was really nice. Like that was something that really worked, and everybody always like have fun just rolling a bunch of dice and like making weird combinations with them. And that allows like this environment of like weirdness and helps on the action of people, like kind of like being like, oh, I did this, I did that, like, oh my god, I got so many sequences here, you know, like, and like someone shoots like their 2 pistols and they're like, oh my god, I got all the sequences, I did 8 damage. And like 8 damage is like really fun to do, and it's 8 damage, you know, but it still feels very epic to do. So you don't need to like do, I did 112 damage to feel that it was something big, like the act of like rolling out this dice and like counting and making stuff, and when you get to the final result, it's fun, you know. And I want to improve on that. Like I want to bring combos, who is another thing that we're playtesting, who like luckily if we have the funding on the Kickstarter, we can like playtest even more. That is this idea of like, now like if you have some special abilities and some things, you could like influence other people's dice, right? So this would be a more advanced type of playing, but you can like, oh, let me give you my 4 now, so you can have my 4 and you give me your 3 that I need a 3, and now we do this combined attacks. But the GM needs to be like, okay, so how are you guys helping each other, right? So okay, I'm shooting my bazooka, but he's gonna shoot this light on top, so everything will go dark, and then the bazooka will explode. So like that's kind of like the combos idea. So you doing that, but at the same time you guys are kind of sharing dice to help each other manipulate dice. It's another topic, another discussion, but that's something that it's possible in the system, right? I think that's kind of like I see dice manipulation and why I think it's so important, because it helps like players who are seasoned will have fun, because it's fun to just do silly things and roll a bunch of dice and like just, and allows people to role play more too, because it's so simple, right? So one of my players who is crazy about role playing, and they always bring this full-fledged character. When we roll a character like really fast, and they have like, okay, so this is the background, this is where they been, this is like everything is already there like in 1 minute, and they love playing because they always have fun like just exploring this world without being bogged by too many rules. But the people who are new also have fun because they have stuff to do, right? There's like so many times I see people like go like, when I'm the player or like when I'm GM, sometimes someone starts making like a little dice pile. Have you ever made a dice pile? You just grab dice because something is happening and it's not exactly, and you're just like fidgeting with dice. There's something like very soothing on that, and I think the game kind of like somehow lets you do that, but in game, you know, you're fidgeting with stuff. So yeah, I think that was kind of like my rationale around manipulating dice. And there is so many possibilities, like it's so many, like there's so many places that I can go with this to make dice manipulation really interesting, like adding more to in-game stuff. And this is, will all be modular. Like if you just want to play a crazy one shot, just get simple things and you play it. But like if by some reason some crazy person is like, you know what, I want to do a campaign of Fluff and Fury, we're gonna play for 3 years being little teddy bears. You can do that. It's possible, you know. I think that's pretty much what I have for today, for this devlog. I'll record a devlog 3 soon. For now, if you want, you can support the game. It's on Kickstarter right now. We're like, I think last time I saw like 60% there. It's close. So if you can support the game, that would be amazing. Like you can see how passionate I am about this game, like how much time I put on this game. So yeah, if you could support us, it would be amazing. And we could like make this game like that I've been talking about for like a year now and just thinking about it. If it's a real physical thing, this would be like my dream. So yeah, thank you very much for watching devlog number 2, and I see you guys soon in the Kickstarter page. If you support from this video, just say something like devlog number 2 is cool, something. Okay, see you, bye.